There is a state of emergency for the entire state of Florida right now. The region is bracing for Hurricane Ian. Yes, at this point, it's been upgraded to a hurricane. It happened earlier today. Expected to rapidly gain strength, possibly turn into a Category 4 storm as it reaches the Gulf of Mexico this week.
Let's check in with ABC's chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, with the latest on all of this. Ginger.
Amy, just in the last couple of hours, we have watched the satellite just explode with convection. That means that the hurricane is getting stronger, and it's going to get stronger fast. By tonight, it should go from Cat 1 earlier this morning to Cat 3, and then it will go up to 4. The impacts after it passes Haiti will begin from south to north across the state of Florida, and anywhere from Key West all the way through the Panhandle needs to be on the lookout. Look at that cone. We still have a wide cone, but as it's a Cat 4 approaching Wednesday night into Tampa, it's that push of water. A push of water for days will cause storm surge. So you have storm surge alerts, 5 to 8 feet for Sarasota, St. Pete, Clearwater. Fort Myers is in the 4 to 7. And the European model, which has been more consistent, one of the two main computer models that we use, this is a worst case scenario, truly, as water piles into the bay, into those waterways that surround the city of Tampa. You have huge explosion in population. And if you had a Cat 1, this would be a 6 to 9 feet of surge. You'd have major coastal flooding. I've been there for a tropical storm with 4 feet of surge. We had water rescues. You cannot fathom what a Cat 3 would look like hugging along the coast. That looks like all of the city of Tampa flooded, and inland it could go miles. So on top of that, you're going to have the threat of heavy rain, up to 15 plus inches. And some of these heavy bands, if this thing slows down as we anticipate it will, you're going to have central Florida seeing not only heavy rain, but also tornadoes in that northeast quadrant, which most of the state of Florida is going to be in, all the way to the Space Coast. I'd be concerned about tornadoes. And then as it moves up and finally gets absorbed into that front, Georgia and South Carolina could see some of that flooding too. Amy?
So many people affected. Ginger Z, thank you for that.
Let's bring in now ABC's senior meteorologist, Rob Marciano. They're on the ground for us in Tampa. What's the, you were talking about this earlier on GMA. You see kind of a shift in mood, kind of, and expect it to keep shifting there in Tampa.
Yeah, TJ, you know, we've been here for a couple days now, and people have been preparing in a pretty orderly fashion. There's been run-on water, cases of water here and there, but they've been able to be restocked, and people have been getting their plywood. They've been fueling up. But I think today, now that this thing is a hurricane, now that the track is actually sliding a little bit closer to Tampa, the anxiety levels are certainly coming up, and their officials are now closing schools in the area because those schools are going to be used as storm shelters, some of which are going to be open as soon as tonight. So I think that there's going to be a little bit more urgency to get things done today. I can tell you that I'm a little bit more anxious this morning for the storm than I was yesterday. So we're getting to that point. It's been over 100 years, guys, since Tampa has seen a direct hit from a major hurricane. So it's been a long time. People obviously have never experienced it, and this city, regardless of the track, is going to be tested this week.
Yeah, and Rob, speaking of the track, I mean, obviously you're relying on these prediction models, and not only the path, but the intensity of what Ian will become. What are you anticipating in terms of what category strength this is likely to be when it hits Florida? And what does this mean for all of southern Florida?
Well, Ginger touched on the intensity factors, and that southern Gulf of Mexico has some really juicy warm water, so that's going to, and it's not a whole lot of wind shear, so it will strengthen. Our computer models are saying there's a 90% chance of it rapidly intensifying further today, so all likelihood of it becoming at least a Category 3 or 4, hopefully weakening before it arrives. But it doesn't matter at that point, Amy, because the wind field's going to grow. It's going to be close enough to Florida. Florida's going to be on the bad side of the storm. So everybody from the Keys to South Florida, even I know you covered Irma in Miami, and that came up the west side. But Miami and the east side of Florida still got hit. So that's why there's a state of emergency for the entire state of Florida, because it doesn't really matter exactly where it hits. Much of the peninsula will feel the effects.
Hey, Rob, give us an idea of timing now with this storm.
Well, here's a tricky part. When you got a storm coming up the west side of Florida, if it dives right, it's coming in earlier, obviously, and in this case, it likely will be stronger. If it stays west, it could be 2 more days before it makes landfall. So it's always very tricky for these emergency managers to plan properly. They pretty much, all of them up and down the coast, have to assume that it's going to come on shore, in their area. But Key West and the Keys will start to feel the effects as soon as tomorrow, and then Wednesday is when much of southern Florida will start to feel the winds and the rains, and it could make landfall as early as Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, depending on on where it hits and how much it slows down. The fact that it's going to slow down, that's not good. It may weaken some, but the wind field will grow and the storm surge will build. We'll get several high tide cycles here in Tampa. And you can see behind me, we're at the mid tide right now. At high tide, you only got 3 or 4 feet before the roads start to flood. And if we get 8, 9, 10 feet of surge, that means much of downtown will flood, which includes some important buildings like the main hospital, which has the main trauma center here. They may have to evacuate patients. That call hasn't been made yet, but that's possible here in the next day or so.
And we know that flooding is the biggest taker of life when you talk about these types of storms. We talk about wind speed and intensity, but it's flooding. So that is the big concern there where you are. ABC News senior meteorologist Rob Marciano, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.